What is up, Earthnoids, Spacenoids, and everything in between? I am just a simple new type, and in this video, we are continuing our adventure with Shiro Amada and the 8th MS team during the 1-year war. In our last video, we were introduced to the 8th and the Kojima Battalion. Shiro learned the hard way about guerrilla warfare, and Aina, the Xeon woman he ran into, may just be his biggest enemy. So let's dive back into the jungle and the 8th. The hover truck comes back before the rest of the 8th. Miko goes to get the mail for Eledore. He receives mail notifying him that one of his songs will get recorded. They go out to the village to party. When heading up a bar, they walk in and notice everything is trashed. Suddenly, Zeke's soldiers surround the place. Miko and Eledore are being tortured while Aina is off in the distance. The two are set to be executed in the morning. They are being held in a hotel occupied by Xeon. Shiro returns to base and finds that Mikkel and Eledore are nowhere to be seen. The 8th goes out to find the two lost soldiers. While out looking, they run into Kiki. Mikkel and Eledore begin to fight with one another. While fighting, they accidentally knock out the Xeon guard like it's a Merry Melody skit. Really weird. They both make their escape. They run into a construction tank. Meanwhile, Shiro and the 8th make contact with Zaku's, firing on Eledore and Mikkel. Eledore tries to operate the construction tank. The cabin suffers heavy fire. A piece of shrapnel goes through his leg. An armored car fires on the construction tank. Eledore is able to take out the armored car. The 8th finds Eledore and tends to his wounds. Luckily, Karen was a medical student and is able to mend his wounds with no problem. Karen punches Eledore while Shiro slaps Mikkel and tells him that he should never disobey orders again. Meanwhile, Eledore touches Karen's boobs. Eledore will be put on the back line and taken to medical care. He looks over Karen before driving off. The 8th go out on another mission. As they make their move towards the jungle's outlying desert to look for the Asperis, Shiro's left foot starts malfunctioning. They stop to fix it. According to one Reddit user, because we see a desert, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam are off the map, and it seems that they are actually located somewhere around the Korean peninsula. But people also seem to forget that Japan also has deserts such as the Totori sand dunes, which would also make sense. But who knows? The Gobi Desert is closer to Korea, so that also makes sense as well. Karen notices some of these mountains are paved with glass, which means beam weapon technology was used in the area. They think it may be that weird Xeon mobile armor they ran into. Mikkel almost kills Shiro while also complaining about treating him like a kid. Pick and choose your battles. Meanwhile, Mikkel is starting to lose it. He is unfocused because of BB's letters. Since episode 1, Mikkel has been writing back and forth with his girlfriend, BB. Kiki steals Mikkel's letters and makes fun of him, but as she continues reading the letter, she realizes that Mikkel's girlfriend is trying to distance herself from Mikkel. She apologizes for taking his letters. Mikkel is being a little bitch and complaining about not being able to deliver his letter to his girlfriend that seems to have moved on from him. Sanders ends up switching places with Mikkel, piloting the Gundam. Everyone is wound up. Tensions are high. Suddenly, Eledore's song comes on the radio. Everyone starts to lighten up. It's been days of them camping out in the desert, but their camping paid off as Aina and the Asperis makes its return. They shoot off nets in the caverns and trap the Asperis. Support fire attacks the 8th from above. The Asperis suddenly shows up right in front of Mikkel. Shiro jumps in to save him. The Gundam uses its beam saber on the Asperis. Aina transmits a message to the Gundam. Shiro recognizes that voice. It is Aina. The Asperis takes off with Shiro, still hanging on. The 8th just lost their commander. Now, before we move on to the next episode, I want to note that by the time that this episode originally aired in Japan, the director Takeyuki Kanda was fatally killed in a car crash. For the remainder of the series, Umanosuke Iida will be the director. Admiral Yuri Kalani is one of the last remaining holdouts in Odessa. They are the last to evacuate from the area. Shiro is still hanging onto the Asperis. He gets out of the Gundam and climbs onto the Asperis. Aina jumps out as well. They talk while floating above Earth. The Asperis is struggling to stay level. Shiro uses the Gundam's thrusters to counter the force of gravity. It somehow works, but Shiro, thinking he would die, tells Aina that he loves her. The cliff breaks and the Gundam falls. Shiro evacuates before the Gundam crashes. Aina turns off her radio. She wants to find Shiro before Zeon finds and kills him. The weather is too bad for Zeon to continue their search party anyways. Shiro ejected on the mountains where snow is falling. He passes out from the cold. When he wakes up, Aina is by his side. He is suffering from minor frostbite on his fingers. Shiro uses the Gundam's beam saber to create a hot springs. Meanwhile, Zeon has officially lost Odessa. Off in the distance, Fettes and Zeon fight one another. A gunperry approaches the Asperis. Aina quickly self-destructs the mobile armor, taking out the gunperry. Aina is rescued by a Dop. Shiro realizes that they can never be together. This dude's name's pronounced Genius, apparently, but I'm gonna keep calling him Genius because that's dumb and you know that's what you were going for. Genius was spying on Aina and finds out that Aina is in love with the enemy. Meanwhile, Shiro preaches peace to his superior officers. This is their reaction. He is confined until his tribunal is over. Since Odessa is no longer in Zeon control, Southeast Asia will be Admiral Yuri's new headquarters. He also wants to discontinue the Asperis project, but Genius does not like that. The 8th are informed that the Guerillas village is being overrun by Zakus. The 8th goes to meet up with Shiro. Captain Hiran Nikard luckily has a forged battle operation form with Kojima's signature on it. They go off to save the villages. At the village, one of the Zakus picks up and drops Kiki. Another gorilla responds with a rocket to the Zaku pilot's face. It looks like the village must now fight, but the 8th makes their way to help support the gorillas. Shiro saves Kiki, but Kiki notices that her dad's home has been destroyed, killing him in the process. The 8th goes after the remaining Zakus with bazookas. Karen fires in the Gundam from afar, while Sanders flanks from a distance. Shiro goes in and dodges a Zaku like a boss and forces them to surrender. But before he can make them surrender, the Guerillas come in to attack. The Zaku fires anti-personnel rounds and takes out some of the Guerillas. Shiro is left with no choice but to kill the Zaku. Surrender is no longer an option. The villagers mourn their loss. Shiro is conflicted what he is doing in this war. Kiki wants the 8th to leave and let the village grieve without them. And that will do it for this episode. We see the bigger picture that is the one-year war playing out in front of our eyes. Also, all it takes for Shiro is a little love to sway him towards peace. Even though he is in love, he will still fight the enemy by any means. Now that the Asperis is destroyed, what will become of the Asperis program? Be sure to like and subscribe to find out more. And remember, new types, love is complicated? Question mark?